You're listening to Big World Network.
Subprimeval, Season 2, Episode 8, Aggressive Behavior, Part 2. Written by Robert S. C. Cutler. Read by Ryan Jones. Warning: although there is no material subject matter within that couldn't be found in any general bookstore with no age constraint, this series is rated 18 and contains adult situations and content. A single bullet from Donald's 9mm Glock exploded from the barrel in a bright orange discharge, ricocheting off of the concrete walkway and embedding itself into the shoulder of the large creature blocking the exit. With Mike's, Doug's, and Donald's ears ringing from the percussion of the gun blast, the creature's screams of agony seemed as if they were coming from inside of a tin can. Donald grabbed hold of his brother and Mike, dragging them both toward his police cruiser and out of the long reach of the creature writhing on the ground. A few feet from the car, Mike's artificial knee buckled, spilling him onto the parking lot. "You okay?" asked Doug. Mike shook his head. "I think I blew out my knee." "Are you in pain?" "What do you think?" Mike scowled. "I think you better shut up and get in the damn cruiser," Donald said. "More of those things are headed this way." Doug helped Mike to his feet and then to the cruiser while Donald stood looking back toward the park's entrance with his gun, aimed at a half-dozen creatures milling about their wounded friend. "It's locked! Throw me the keys!" Doug yelled, while trying all 4 door handles a second time and then a third time. Donald yanked the keys from his pants pocket along with a bunch of lint and loose change and threw them over to his brother. Doug opened the back passenger door for Mike and attempted to help him in. Mike pushed back so hard that he fell again to the ground. Flustered and throwing up his arms, Doug yelled at Mike, "What are you doing?" "I'm not getting back there." "Why the hell not?" "I have a lot of bad memories from the back of police cars," Mike explained. "Well, you can't have the front seat," Doug said. "Why not?" "Because that's where I'm sitting." Mike tossed Doug his keys. "Here, drive my car." Before Doug could argue back, Donald fired the remaining 9 bullets from his gun. "Get in! Get in! Get in!" Doug pushed Mike into the back and ran over to the passenger side door. Peering through the driver's side window, he spotted Donald wide-eyed and running toward them. Directly behind him, the half-dozen creatures were in close pursuit, and more were pouring out of the park, each one taking a moment to sniff the wound of the big creature Donald had shot. Donald closed and locked the doors, and then realized he couldn't start the car. "Where are my keys? Give me my keys, Doug!" Doug handed Donald the keys that were in his hands. "What's this?" Donald asked excitably. "This isn't a Kia." "Are you sure?" asked Doug. "Yes, I'm flipping sure. The St. Paul Police Department doesn't drive Kias. They drive Chevys." "You left them on the roof, Doug," Mike said, while pointing up. Donald glared over at his brother. "Get the keys." "I'm not going out there with whatever those things are." "Look, they stopped," Donald said, while pointing out of his window. "If you get the keys now, you'll probably make it back in before they even see you." "Then why don't you do it?" asked Doug. "Because I'm not the one that left the keys on the roof of the car. You did." Doug fidgeted in his seat and looked past his brother. The creatures had stopped their pursuit and were making their way back toward the wounded one. After taking a few deep breaths, Doug slowly opened his door and mumbled, "Mama's boy." "Moron," Donald mumbled back. The interior light of the cruiser caught one of the creature's attention. Rising up on its hind legs, it chirped and cooed, alerting the others. As Doug reached across the roof for the keys, he locked gazes with the creature and froze. Several of the others turned and also rose up. A chorus of coos and growls filled the night. "What are you doing?" Donald asked, smacking his brother's legs with the back of his hand. Seeing what Doug was seeing, Mike's eyes widened. "Hurry up," he urged his best friend. When the grouping of creatures started running their way, Mike's urging turned into screams of panic. Donald grabbed hold of Doug's pant leg and dragged him back into the car just as Doug looped his middle finger through the key ring. "Here, start the car!" Doug yelled. The Impala's engine roared to life, just as one of the creatures landed on top of the roof. Donald shifted the car into reverse and backed over another of the creatures. Shifting into drive, he ran back over the creature and hit the rear left corner of Mike's Kia, tearing the trunk away from the main body. "My car! You just totaled my car!" Mike yelled. "No shit!" Doug said, straining to look back. Donald ignored Mike's complaints and requested backup over his radio. "Take 35 to Diffley Road exit," Mike told Donald. "You live in Egan? I can't drive all the way to Egan," Donald whined. "I've got to report to the other side of High Bridge. There's been an attack across the cathedral." "Just drop us off at the Prospector Bar on Robert. Lisa can pick us up after we down a few beers," Doug said. Mike shook his head. "I can't go to that bar." "Oh yeah, your knee. I promise the wife will drive you to your place as soon as she gets there." "It's not the knee. I gave up drinking about a year ago and would really like to stay in the wagon." "Shoot, after what we saw tonight, I'd be downing an entire bottle of wild turkey if I wasn't still on duty," Donald said, "wagon or no wagon." "Just drop us off at Caribou, Donald. I'll buy Mike one of those fancy coffees. I can always down my frayed nerves in alcohol when I get home." Breaking the speed limit, because he could, Donald flew down the road and into the parking lot of the coffee house. Impatient for Mike to hobble out of the car, Donald rapidly tapped the steering wheel with his index finger. "Could you please move it along?" Donald griped. "Gotta go." Mike raised his eyebrows. "Let me know who to send the pictures to." Yeah, fine." "What's your hurry?" asked Doug. "I told you there was another attack, and now I'm going to get written up for not reporting it fast enough." Donald peeled away as soon as the car doors were shut. "That's not good," said Doug. "That'll be the third time this month. They're talking about suspending him." "4 if they ding him for wrecking my car," Mike said. "Let's get out of the cold and get some coffee." "Sounds good. I'll call Lisa after we order." Mike limped over to a booth with a cup of hot coffee, coalesced with rich chocolate and topped off with whipped cream. Doug wandered over, talking on the phone and taking careful sips of his own steaming cup. Every few feet, he would stop, breathe out slowly, roll his eyes, and hunch his back. When Doug finally reached the table, he signed off with, "Yes, we'll be ready. I promise. In 10 minutes. "Well, she's pissed," Doug said to Mike, plopping down in the booth. "Don't doubt it. I'll owe her one for driving me home," Mike said. "Speaking of which, I need my keys back." Doug cleared his throat and took a sip. "I don't have your keys." "Yes, you do. I threw them to you when we were in the parking lot." "Kinda freaky what we saw tonight. What in the world were those things? Crazy." "I don't know, and don't change the subject. I need my keys, Doug." "I told you, bro. I don't have your keys." Mike sternly placed his cup on the table and leaned forward in his seat. "Ever since middle school, you've called me bro when you were lying about something. For the last time, where the hell are my keys?" "Fine, but it's not my fault." "What's not your fault?" asked Mike. "It was Donald." "What does Donald have to do with my keys?" Doug lowered his eyes. "They're in the cup holder of the cruiser." "Are you kidding me? How am I supposed to get into my apartment?" "Don't you have a spare?" "Yeah, in my apartment." Doug looked out the window and shrugged his shoulders. "Well, that's just bad planning on your part." "I'm going to bad plan you if you don't call your brother right now." "Okay, but he won't answer," Doug sighed. Doug held the screen of the phone toward Mike to show him he was actually calling Donald. When it went to voicemail, Doug left a short message stating that Mike needed his keys back as soon as possible. Mike was about to attack him over the table when he heard a familiar voice call his name. To his surprise, Renee was standing next to the booth, asking if they had room for one more. Renee smiled at Mike. "Starting to be a habit, and I haven't seen you in almost 2 years," she said to Doug. "How's Lisa been doing?" "Good. Lisa's good." Doug bobbed his head. "She'll be here in a bit to pick us up." "What, no car, Mike? Did you take the dreaded bus?" Renee laughed. Mike didn't respond. He didn't know how to after this afternoon. Instead, he studied Renee's blue eyes and beautiful smile, then looked away. Doug took a big sip of his coffee and smacked his lips. "Mike's car is a goner." Donald totaled it. Oh no, how did that happen? We were running from those things that ate the girl you found, and Doug started. You mean there are bears in the park? I'm not sure what they are. Definitely not bears, though. Mike shook his head and glared over at Doug. She doesn't want to hear this. Yes, she does, Renee disagreed. Maybe it was a rabid dog or a mountain lion. Doug smacked his hand down hard on the table. See, that's what I said it was. A mountain lion. Those definitely weren't mountain lions or dogs, Mike said. Kind of like a half-breed of some kind. Of something. Gives me the creeps just thinking of them. Show her the pictures you took, Doug said to Mike. He turned back to Renee. This will freaking blow your mind. I don't know, Mike hemmed and hawed. I know you hate scary movies. I'm not a child and this isn't a movie, Mike, Renee said. It's real life, so let's have a look. Mike removed his camera from the bag and scrolled to the picture of the creatures gathering by the swing set. Renee took the camera and at first stared as though she was trying to figure out exactly what she was looking at. And then her jaw dropped and eyes widened. She scrolled back and forth through the playground photos, mouthing the words, "Oh my God," over and over. I don't think you should go back to Indian Mounds Park anytime soon, Mike said. Renee handed Mike his camera. Or ever again. Doug's wife Lisa walked into the coffee shop wearing baggy sweats and a wide headband. Her face was washed clean of makeup, and she had a yellow and brown stain on her right shoulder. Oh, this is nice, she yelled after hitting Doug on the back of the head. I don't suppose you bought me a coffee? Very thoughtful, you two, Renee said. What would you like, girlfriend? I'm buying. A berry white mocha sounds wonderful, Lisa smiled. I'll go with. Isn't it great to have Hansel and Gretel together again? Doug said. Lisa gave her husband a stern look. I believe Renee prefers to be called Renee. Am I right? Spot on, Renee said. Gretel stopped being Gretel when Hansel fooled around with that witch. As Renee and Lisa made their way to the customer service counter, Doug reached over the table and smacked Mike in the arm. Damn, buddy, sounds like Gretel wants to get back together. What? She can't stand to be around me. Then why did she sit down? And next to you? Bet you 20 she offers to take you home instead of us. I've got 50 that says she won't, said Mike. Make it 60 and you've got a deal. Oh, and here they come. Time to go home, Daddy. Playtime is over, said Lisa. Is it all right if Mike sleeps on the couch? Donald has his keys and he can't get into his apartment. Lisa shook her head. 2 out of 3 of the kids have the stomach flu. I wouldn't make our worst enemy suffer through that. Doug threw his hands up in the air. Again? Why don't we just hang a bag around their scrawny little necks as much as they all puke? You can sleep on my couch, Mike, Renee offered. That is, if you don't mind. Doug smiled before leaning over to Mike and whispering, You owe me $60, bro. The conversation between Mike and Renee was light and casual, mostly about old friends and what each other had been up to for the past 2 years. So you work at the U now, huh? Asked Mike. Yeah, the School of Law Library. Sounds exciting. Mike cringed. Not really, Renee laughed. I have a couple of things of yours that must have been packed by accident when I moved out. Oh yeah? What's that? A broken tripod and your high school yearbook. And to think, I never knew either of them were missing. Renee snorted out a laugh, making Mike laugh too. As the car's headlights traveled up the narrow driveway of Renee's house, Renee caught movement out of the corner of her eye. Slowing down by the mudroom entrance, she noticed the door was hanging off of one hinge and several cans of food in her winter boots and coat were scattered about. Do you have problems with raccoons? Asked Mike. Renee shook her head. I don't think so. Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm really glad you're here with me right now. I'm not sure what we're going to find in there. If it's any bigger than a raccoon, I probably won't be much help with my bum knee. Renee continued up the driveway and pushed the button for the automatic garage door opener. As the large door slowly rose up, boxes, lawn equipment, and the contents of her trash can came spilling out. Startled by the mess, Renee slammed on her brakes. What the hell? She yelled. Maybe it's time to clean out your garage, Mike said. Before Renee could respond, a large dark figure rushed the car, crashing into the passenger side door and causing Mike's head to slam against the window. Renee screamed as another figure leapt upon her small compact, caving in the roof. Trying to get away, She floored the gas pedal thinking the car was in reverse, but instead drove forward and careened into the garage.
You're listening to Big World Network.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.